What's up everyone, Alpha Soul here with a live stream summary of the live stream that occurred on October 31st, yesterday on Halloween, from Ashes of Creation. Now, there was a lot of information that was shared in this video, and I wanted to kind of chop it down and make it as succinct as I possibly can so that we cover the main relevant things that I had pulled out from the video. Now, the overall live stream was a long live stream. It was definitely well over an hour, and including the Halloween section, it was like an hour and a half. But I'm gonna chop all that down, put it all into categories, and see if we can quickly cover what it is that they covered. So without that, let's go ahead and get started. Now, the very first grouping of things is all around the progress, and there was a lot of major announcements as far as the progress goes. So there's a very big announcement specifically regarding Ashes of Creation Apocalypse. Now, Ashes of Creation Apocalypse is what Intrepid is renaming as a grouping and suite of things. The Battle Royale, Castle Siege mode, and the Horde mode are all included in this Ashes of Creation Apocalypse. Now, really, the main goal of the whole suite is to provide testing, to help test the combat, help test certain systems, and funnel that all into the MMO. But I think what they were having and what they were seeing was a lot of people were getting confused with the current Battle Royale, how it was structured, why it was out there to begin with, and why we were seeing this rather than the actual MMO. So they kind of made a little bit more of a hard distinction with Ashes of Creation Apocalypse. Now, Apocalypse has a lot of things that will actually be in it. For example, the character creator will be fleshed out and put in Ashes of Creation Apocalypse. The freehold and the housing kind of creator will be in Ashes of Creation Apocalypse. You'll be able to create your character, you'll be able to create your freehold, or, you know, I'm not sure what extent we'll be able to do it, but you'll be able to save those configurations and then use them in the live game when it actually comes out. There will be cosmetics that you can earn within this, depending on, you know, achievements that you can make, you know, logging in achievements, you know, maybe winning certain matches. We don't know what the extent is of it, but there will be where you can earn these cosmetics, and these will transfer over into the live game. So there is a point to playing Ashes of Creation Apocalypse, and it will be a side thing. Now, we did not hear any news whether or not this will be persistent, you know, pursuing or continuing well after the MMO is actually released, but hopefully in the next coming weeks we get a little bit more clarification. And based on what they talked about before, it doesn't seem like even Steven knows whether or not they'll keep it persistent, but, you know, as again, we'll see what happens in the coming things. Now, the Battle Royale mode, it's actually, the Apocalypse is actually tied to the larger story. Apocalypse being the end of Vera, or the world that we're actually going to be playing in, and, you know, we're returning to. This is the period that happened when the calamity kind of hit, basically. So the Battle Royale mode is all about the people that got stuck and left behind and thrown back to the world, and, you know, they're fighting it out. Whereas the Castle Siege mode is really the struggle that everyone goes through in order to claim those castles as the last bastions and best places to kind of defend against what they know is the coming Horde. And finally, the Horde mode is the players and people defending against wave after wave after wave of monster until they finally, what we presume is succumb or die, basically. So all of that kind of fits within the story, which is kind of cool, and I thought was pretty neat. Now, the next bit of information that was also pretty cool had to do with the performance of the servers. One major milestone that Steven had announced was that the server-side performance had hit 60 frames per second with 100 plus players, and they were trying to get that number up. They were close with 200 and getting that number up, so there should be extremely smooth performance with more and more people coming on. Now, for those of us who have been in the alphas and the alpha stress test, we've seen the progress improve from test to test. When I first got in those tests, I think 30 was roughly the max number of people that were in those matches, and even then there was a little bit of server delay and lag. So having that been improved on, and there's been a lot of like bug fixes, man, absolutely quality, and it's cool to kind of hear which benchmarks and numbers that they're actually aiming for. So the next grouping of items is regarding the 24/7 testing that is technically we should actually be in right now. They're experiencing a little bit of delay on that, but they're working on that, and it's really revolving around getting servers in the different regions up and ready. Now the timeline that they slated for that is between the next 2 and 4 weeks when the 24/7 testing will be up. So when that happens, you'll be able to log in at any time that you want, join some battle royales, and keep participating on those. Q2 is still the planned kind of release for the MMO portion of the testing, otherwise known as Alpha 2 or Alpha Phase 2. Now, with the change to Alpha Apocalypse, I believe that's just going to be known as Alpha, and Ashes of Creation Apocalypse is the other stuff. So I'm going to be referring that as well as the Alpha. The Alpha will be ready in Q2, early Q2. In fact, they said specifically like late March, early April is generally when they think that will be ready. So when that happens, we'll be able to, I believe it's like level up to 20. We'll have some of the traditional classes. We'll be able to test out like the node system, things like that. That's when that will all be ready. And speaking of timeline, the overall timeline, this question was asked actually a couple times, and they, answered it. The overall timeline is still slated for release by the end of 2019. And one thing that Steven actually clarified was they're doing things a little bit differently. The majority of their tests and everything like that, improvements, things like that, are all within the alpha stage for their alpha. Their betas, on the other hand, are not going to be that long at all. They're going to be relatively short betas. So people, I guess, had some misconception to, if you've got alphas that are this long and they're going up until, well past the end of summer, how the heck are you going to squeeze in that many betas before the release? Well, he explains a little bit about that and their reasoning and how they're actually doing things. But the good thing is that it's still on target for release by the end of 2019, which is positive and great. Now, one final note that I thought was very interesting is that he commented specifically on, there's been some people who have been saying, don't release it too fast, don't rush, don't do things like that. And we got a little bit of insight into the development process for that. Specifically, what Steven said was that they will not be releasing this product until it passes their quality assurance. Now, they're not counting things like scope creep, which basically means additional features that are coming in. They're firmly against scope creep and they're trying to hit their actual target, but they're basically saying that don't worry, have no fear, we will not release a half-assed product to you. So that was extremely positive. Now let's talk a little bit about the footage that you're seeing in the background, or the alpha footage that is there. This alpha footage is brand new, it's been released. It's something that they wanted to show just to assure people that, hey, yes, we're still developing on the MMO. We're not putting resources towards this battle royale, or at least the amount of resources that you think, and all is fine on the puddle. And there was a lot of interesting stuff that I found really interesting, and some of the stuff that you might see within this video. So the first thing was they were getting the weather systems up and running, which is really cool in the way they described it. So what you're seeing in the video was the rain portion, and the rain produces puddles as it falls to the ground. The rain also, creates mist and steam when it goes through. And with the term weather systems, you kind of get the impression that it's moving across the landmass as it goes, which is actually pretty cool. So they're working on that, and the weather also affects mobs in different ways, or creatures in specific ways. So in the video, there was a portion where the spider mob, this large spider mob, comes out of its dwelling and starts moving around because its cave gets flooded by the rain. So cool things like that. Now, I do have a little bit of concern on that, only because I am an Ultima Online veteran, and I know what they tried before with environments that are, kind of interact with things. Like they had this old system that had to do with, predators and creatures, and I think when you throw people in there, you might get a different unintended result. So we'll see what happens with that, but just something interesting to kind of see. Now, speaking of that, I think the most interesting thing that I took away from this new footage was the way that the skills kind of worked together. And specifically, like you kind of saw one of the mage in that video essentially use ice steps and then blink across. And then as he blinked across, because he instantly moved, you still saw a stream of ice just lay down instantly in that path, which was a really cool application. Now, we didn't see anything like that in the Battle Royale, mainly because those two skills are actually one or the other that you can actually choose. They're both foot objects in the Battle Royale, and you can only have one foot object. But since this is more the MMO and you've got a grouping of skills, it was cool to see that. And it was also really cool to hear Jeff's interpretation of how he liked that and how they were not intending that to be a skill, but they liked how that interacted with each other. So getting to the point where we can see all these skills interact is going to be a really cool thing, and that was really cool to see in the video. Now, the final portion I wanted to cover is really just general tidbits and things that, were taken from the chat, including, some of the Q&A and things of that nature. So the first thing of the general tidbits that's actually coming is there is a new website, account management website that is coming, and it should be here in the next, I believe, 2 weeks or so. And coming along with the new account management and the new website, you're going to see some new blogs that are coming on the way. So we're going to get some more lore, some more information on how some of these systems work. It's going to be pretty cool, and I really look forward to that. Intrepid Studios is doing an extra life 24-hour campaign where they will, and they're doing it for charity basically. So they'll be playing games, you'll be able to donate to this charity, and you'll be able to do things like boons, helping or hindering players, but it should be pretty interesting, and that is this Saturday. So as I find the information, I'll put it down below in the links, and you can go ahead and check that out. Inside the game, they will have holidays, specifically holidays that kind of correspond to our real-life holidays. So a good example they gave is, there will be something in-game around, October 31st, around Halloween, but it won't be Halloween specifically. It'll be its own Ashes flavor type holiday. And I'm assuming kind of like the same thing. So for like Christmas and holidays like that, the best interpretation I can think of is probably something along the lines of the way Star Wars The Old Republic does it. They have their own, like, the New Life holiday and things of that nature that aren't quite the same thing, but kind of achieve the same purpose. So we can expect to see that in Ashes of Creation as well. Cities will look very different. All cities do not generate and become the same thing. All of them will be different. You can see variation in the type of node that they are. You can see variation in the actual buildings themselves. Even if the node is the same type, more than likely the city will be completely different and structured around it. The other cool thing was that within that, each node will have different buildings that are able to kind of spring up because of it. An example that was given was the militaristic district will be able to see like barracks. You'll be able to get quests from barracks, like hunt and kills, things of that nature that you'll be able to do from it. And each kind of variant will have its own things, a library for scientific, things along that nature. There was a preview of the new cosmetics that are going to drop on Friday, and the theme is really necromancy, really about death, and really about, I guess October 21st, 31st, Halloween. So you can expect to see those. Some of them look pretty cool. It should be pretty interesting. I personally really liked the ship. There's this angler ship that was shown, and ooh, that thing looks pretty cool. We can name our ships, and we can also name our building. They will be clickable objects. You'll be able to click on them, and thus you'll be able to see, kind of who owns it, who's blah, 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 or, things of that nature. So yes, we will be able to name our ships and buildings. Speaking of ships, sailing will be complicated, and it'll be more complicated depending on the size of the ship you have. If you've got like the small little rowboat, it's probably not going to be that very complicated, but if you have this huge, massive ship, multiple people will need to fill different roles. The thing I'm thinking of in this is like something like Sea of Thieves where you're moving around, but he gave the example of Arcade. Unfortunately, I did not actually participate in naval combat when I was playing Arcade, so I don't know specifically what he's talking about, but I imagine it's something along that the lines of multiple people are needed for different aspects of the game. And finally, your secondary class does influence your class in general. So for example, one of the things that was given was, could you make like I think it was like a light and a dark healer, or do the, two difference, and Steven stated that the way to do that was through the secondary class system, that will, perform some heavy, I guess, alterations on your skills and things that they will do. So that pretty much sums up what I took away from the live stream, what I thought about the live stream. There was a lot of information just in general, and a lot of talking and a lot of Q&A that went around, but those what I thought were the most important. So feel free to check out the whole video. There's obviously a lot more information, and it is a little bit of a longer and cool thing because you got to see all these costumes and things of that nature within the video. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free, let me know, leave me a message, send me a note, do whatever you got to do. Alpha Soul out, guys.